students are being pulled into depression. I think amongst a lot of other factors which contribute in this whole scenario wherein a lot of young people are not happy, one of the primary factors which contributes in young people not being happy is that they're not doing what they're really passionate about. When you're not doing what you're not passionate about, you really pull yourself into a very negative kind of loop where you're doing something where every day where you're not passionate about, and then you just there's a continuous loop that you get into, and just observe the society around you. There are people who work for say 8 to 9 hours a day every day for say Monday to Friday, and they're always looking forward for the weekends. They always want that just we just get over with the week and we just enter into the weekend and we can go for a weekend getaway, or we can just go for we can just have a party or something. So I mean that a lot of young people, a lot of students are doing things which they're not passionate about, and that's particularly the reason that they wish to get away from that particular life. So and that's largely about finding these escape routes. Now these escape routes can be in different forms and shapes. Some people like to go out, some people like to go and do something, some people like to have some drinks and etc etc. I mean there can be multiple shapes and forms of how students and young people wish to get away or escape what they're actually doing. But I think that if young people try and build their lives and structure their lives around what they are really passionate about, they would never have this feeling of getting away from that particular life. They have this feeling of escaping what they're doing. They have this feeling of getting away because they're not doing what they're passionate about. Now, take this just to put it very simply. Uh, you do not need motivation or inspiration for eating your favorite food. You do not need motivation or inspiration for watching your favorite film. You do not need motivation and inspiration for binging on Netflix, Amazon Prime. But when you're studying, when you're doing something which you're not passionate about, you always need that external motivation. When I go on airports, you find so many young people with these self-help books, the subtle art of not giving an F, the 5 a.m. club, who will cry when I die, and all these self-help books, motivational and inspirational books. Now you need that kind of external motivation when you're not doing something you're intrinsically motivated about. You're not pumped up every day, or when you wake up in the morning and you have to pull yourself through the day and you have to pull yourself through the week just to get to that weekend. So it is very, very important for young students like all of you and the ones who are watching that you find that passion, you find that particular thing that really intrinsically motivates you. If you are doing something that intrinsically motivates you, you'll never want to get away from that. I can give my example for so that you're able to practically relate. For example, what I always want. I'm doing something which I always wanted to write from a very early age, and it's all about synchronizing your passion with your profession. Once you do that, I can say it very very confidently that you would know that you would know you would never feel that you're working, and irrespective of how many hours you put in every day, you will just feel very very pumped up all through the day, and irrespective of whether it's a weekend or a weekday, irrespective of the time that you're putting in, you'll just feel pumped up all throughout, and that largely comes from that intrinsic motivation. So the first message I want to give all the young students is to find that particular thing that keeps you going. Find that particular thing that you're passionate about. Because if you're doing something which you're passionate about, I can bet on this that you will never feel a sense of void. You will never feel this sense of anxiety or depression amongst you. And the second thing which is connected to this whole scenario of not being happy, young people not being happy, is the very nature of life. Life would never move in a linear fashion. So young students are always running after something, that they set a goal and they feel that once we achieve that particular goal, we'll be happy. And this is something which the society also feeds in. You see your parents, you see your relatives, you see the people around you. They'll always tell you that. So when you're in school, they'll always tell you that just get through the board exams, score well, and you will do very good in life. Once the board exams are over, they tell you just get into a good college, your life would be set. Once you get into a good college, they'll tell you now get a good job and your life would be set. few years into the job, they'll tell you just marry someone and your life would be set. So this loop never ends. Just see the kind of the society we've built around us, and you will never find a situation in life. And I'm sure that you have a lot of senior people here; they can vouch for this. That you'll never have a situation in life where you'll feel that you've reached there and you'll be happy completely. So the very nature of life is that it never moves in a linear fashion. It'll always be ups and downs. So we have to, as young people, also realize this, that it's not a race that we are in, and it's definitely not a 100-meter race. It's a marathon that we are running. Life is always a marathon. So it's not about getting somewhere. It's about the whole journey. So to make that journey, to make that journey happy, to make that journey very, very satisfactory and fruitful, I think it is very, very important that young people take up something that they're passionate about, they are driven about, and if they do that, that journey would at least be a happy journey. That ups and downs, those ups and downs would still be there, but the journey would be a much more happier journey. So that's about the whole passion and profession thing. The next thing I wanted to talk about, it's an underlying theme which a lot of young people message me about also on social media and other platforms, is about internships. So a lot of young people uh, apply for a lot of internships during their summers, during their winters, because they wish to supplement their academic structures, academic courses, and all with some sort of practical experiences. Now, that's a very, very good thing. But the secondary or the supplementary issue to this is a lot of students say that whether they should go for a paid internship or an unpaid internship. Now, paid internships is a very Western kind of a concept. If you see that it's mostly people in the Western countries that they're looking for paid internships. Now you have to we have to compare the socioeconomic conditions of those countries with us. If you are a student who is only looking for a paid internship and you will just not get into or take up an unpaid internship, there'll be hundreds and thousands of students who will be willing to take that particular opportunity, irrespective of whether you take that or not. So you have to understand the socioeconomic condition of a country as well. There'll always be hundreds and thousands of young students who will be willing to replace you or at a lower pay and also no pay at all. So a very practical advice to young students is that if you're getting an opportunity for an internship at a good place, irrespective of whether you're being paid or not, just take that up, because if you take that up, you will still have that opportunity to acquire those skills. And once you acquire those skills, I'm sure that in the times to come you can definitely monetize those skills as well. But if you're very rigid about getting only paid internships, there's a good opportunity that you would not be able to get that particular internship opportunity, and you'll have to wait for that particular paid opportunity to come to you, which might not even come to you, right? So you have to be very, very practical when it comes to building your careers. So if you are getting an internship, irrespective of whether it's paid or unpaid, if it's a good opportunity, just take it. Just build on your skills, no matter whether you're being paid or not. Just build on your skills, and I'm sure that in the time to come, you will be able to monetize those skills as well. And talking about skills, one thing, very related thing to this is that a lot of you would be so it's a literature fest, as I can see. So there will be a lot of students who would be into arts, there'll be students who would be into commerce, and there'll be students into science. Now when we talk of skills, just know that the traditional degree that you're doing, the traditional course that you're doing, is not going to be enough in the times to come. You have to supplement the particular course that you're doing with a lot of soft skills as well. Now, these soft skills can be public speaking. It can be something related to marketing, brand building, content writing. There's so many things which are not being taught to you in the classroom. But in today's day and age, these skills are extremely important. When you're leaving your colleges and when you're finding jobs, if you have these particular skills, in comparison to your peers, you'll always have an upper hand. So just think from the perspective of a recruiter. If I'm a recruiter, I would want, and I'm going into a college where there's a batch of 100 students who've done the similar course, who are passing that similar course. Who would I hire? I would hire an individual who has that, of course, that knowledge base after doing that course, plus some additional skills. So as a student, just make sure that you're just not banking only on your traditional degree and course that you're doing, but also supplementing it with these additional soft skills. So these are a few suggestions that I have from my end during your school or college, whichever level of education you are in. Uh, and the last thing I wanted to talk about is entrepreneurship. Now, you all know that we are talking about becoming a self-reliant country when it comes to a lot of things. We were talking about becoming an Atmanirbhar Bharat. There are talks about India becoming a $5 trillion economy. Now, all of this would not happen if we all become job seekers. We need to build a pool of job creators as well. So I can see a lot of dynamic young people here, and I'm sure that you have influence over hundreds and thousands of other young people as well. So I think that this call of becoming a job creator is very, very important. And I know that becoming a job creator is not an easy task. And becoming a job seeker is more being in a comfort zone, right? So becoming an entrepreneur is definitely a very, very tough task. But we need to take these tough decisions if we really wish to become the world's factory, right? We need more and more job creators and not only job seekers. So I think that we can have a session on entrepreneurship separately, because I think I've already lapsed my time. But these were a few talking points which I wanted to leave young people with, just to think upon, ponder upon, and how we can really take everyone together and everyone forward in in this national mission of, say, revitalizing our country. And I think I would like to congratulate the whole team again for organizing this event. I'm looking forward to hear uh, the other speakers as well, who are very, very senior than me and also like mentor to me. So thank you so much once again for having me here. And all of if any of the students wish to connect with me, they can definitely do that, and we can have a conversation later as well. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, sir. Thank you. And when you talk about passion, I don't think that I don't think that anyone better can relate than me, because being very honest, I was a science student back then in 11th and 12th, and then I joined arts. And when you talk about internship side over here, like to mention that usually organizations and institutions do not provide internships to school students, but we at Conflux Rivista are trying to give internships, and we are trying to train school students over here so that they have a better exposure. School students have been tackling everything from the live sessions to the and they've also been writing articles for the e-magazine. So yes, I absolutely agree to each and every point you made. Thank you so much, sir. It's been a pleasure having you today. Now, since this is a panel of international relations, we have diplomats and people from the top think tanks of the country. It'll be very injustice to the panel if we do not talk anything about international relations, any recent topic or anything. So, for this, I would like to invite Dr. Pramod Jaiswal to to speak something on India-China relationship. He is the research director at the Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement, and he's been a regular and visiting faculty at different universities of Nepal and China. He's also the senior fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies, New Delhi, and the general secretary at Center for Diplomacy and Development, Kathmandu. He holds a master's, MPhil, and PhD from School of International Relations, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. And in addition to it, he has authored, edited, and co-edited 10 books on China and South Asia affairs. So please, we would really want you to throw some light on some present issues.
Thank you, Paki. Honorable Chief Guest Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, distinguished participants, and team of TCR. First of all, I think I must thank Paki and the team of TCR Lit Fest 2020 for this opportunity. It is my privilege to speak today as a keynote speaker. It is my first attempt at this role, though I believe that I'm too young for this, and I'm still a student of international relations, and I'm learning. So I'm really thankful to the organizer for this opportunity. It also to speak today on the conference of our at the presence of our chief guest today, and Mr. Vishnu Prakash. I really enjoyed listening to him and have learned a lot from him. It is really a difficult task for a teacher to put his thoughts in 10 minutes when you have wonderful students in the audience, because our However, I'll try my best to wrap up in 10 to 12 minutes. I have a slide because there are a few maps as well. So I thought I'll go with that. Basically, like I'll be talking about Nepal's China conundrum, where India will be factoring into it. So let's look at, uh, before we start, I think as a student of international relations, we should talk about how small states like Nepal behave in international relations. First is that small states like Nepal, they are positioned very low in the structural ordering of international system, and they have very limited role in international relations. The prime objective of small states like Nepal is to ensure their own survival and development. That is what they want from the international system. And due to limited role, they promote their national interest through international organizations like United Nations, or alignment by forming alliance with different countries or big powers. They also have difficulty in exercising independent foreign policy. Nepal is a classic example that it has to take sides at different point of time, but they do not align with one specific actor all the time because it can be counterproductive. At the same time, changing alliance has always provided them maximum economic and security gains. Small states like Nepal, they benefit a lot if they're caught between two adverse big power, as it can lead to competition or influence. Nepal is an example here between India and China. If a small state is perceived to be closer to their adversary, it seeks to improve its relation with the state to minimize possible static damage. That is what happens between Nepal, India, and Nepal, China relations. No state can directly threaten a small state as they can align with other power, which can be counterproductive. So though small states are very small, it's very difficult to threaten them. Because if you look at the history of the world, attack on a small state sometimes have triggered big powers like World War One, World War Two had some traces of that. At the same time, I said that small states, they have limited role, they have difficulty in exercising independent foreign policy, but sometimes small states have many choices. They can align with either power or join extra-regional power or remain neutral. But mostly neutrality is beneficial and has low risks. Now let's talk about Nepal, India, and China. Let's look at the border. This is Nepal-China border, where there are two big walls. We have only two border opening with China. And this is Nepal-India border. In the first picture, you can see a cow. Cow belongs to Nepal government or people of Nepal, or it has a Nepalese citizenship, you can say. And a man standing on the road is from India. Where is the border? You can't trace that. But there are other border points which are shown in three maps, three pictures. So Nepal and India have open border. It's very difficult to demarcate border. You can see in the three maps that there's huge movement. You can't see any barriers there. While on the previous, there are big walls which you have to cross through. So now what does it mean? It means that when you are in Nepal, you are literally in India. Or if you are in India, you're in Nepal. So because there is no wall. I mean, there is no border between the two countries. So in one sense, you are one country. For example, it will be very difficult for you to enter JNU. It's almost impossible for you to enter Jawaharlal Nehru University without showing identification, but you can move easily from Nepal to India, India to Nepal, or between New Delhi to Noida. So because of that, it becomes the border, because of border, the relationship between security is the major factor that influences the relation of these three countries. Now let's look at the geopolitics here. What is Nepal's foreign policy objective? Nepal want to use China diplomatically to counterbalance India because India is a bigger country, bigger power, and it want to develop its economy with India's and China's assistance. Similarly, China's interest in Nepal is to safeguard its strategic concern that comes from Tibet and also dilute India's influence in Nepal because that is how China will benefit. Now, what is India's interest? India also have security interest because of open border. It also wants to promote democracy in Nepal because it can ensure political stability and economic prosperity. Now, let me briefly talk about Nepal-China relations. If you look at Nepal-China relations, Nepal has always moved towards the king only when they see a kind of threat from India or their regime, not they as a country, but their regime. So Nepal has only moved towards China when they perceive a kind of threat from the Indian regime, or they find that they have not been supported by the Indian regime. For example, the monarchy, King Mahendra or Birendra or Gyanendra or the Maoist, they had that perception that India is not in favor of them. So they are at that time Nepal has moved towards China. But China was very careful in response because China knew that India has very eminent position in Nepal. So it was very careful in responding to that Nepal's request. Nepal encouraged the king, encouraged the Maoist, but they never challenged India's position in Nepal. Similarly, cultivating relations with China has worked in Nepal's favor, or the people, or the regime of that time. Because if you look at King Mahendra, initially he was not supported by India, because India used to support the democratic government movement led by Bisweswar Prasad Koirala. So after Mahendra moved to China, India started believing in twin pillar theory, where king and democracy can work together. So that is what Mahendra gained from moving towards China. But with the changing political situation in Nepal, China has also started cultivating relations with different political parties, especially the Maoist and the Nepal Communist Party at the moment. Till 2015, there was only one border point between Nepal and China. That was Kerung, or you can, that was Kodari Pass. But later on, Kerung point was opened. That's a new border between the two countries, which was opened after the earthquake. And Chinese are planning to connect the Qinghai Railway that comes from Beijing, Lhasa, will be connected to that particular point, which they plan to further extend to Kathmandu and Lumbini. Now, let me briefly talk about Chinese aid to Nepal. What is the trend? If you look at this chart, it can explain that the aid from China to Nepal increased drastically in 2005. Now what was the event at that time? It was a King Gyanendra's rule, absolute power. So that was the time where this shows that Chinese really loved the king. Second was in 2008. That is the time where China was organizing Olympics, and there are lots of anti-China, you can say pro-Tibetan activities in Nepal. And that made Chinese nervous because they realized that the Western powers, or you can say those who are against China, really want to use Nepal to humiliate Beijing on the eve of Olympics, on the issues of human rights and Tibet and all those. So there are lots of Tibetan activities in Nepal that forced China to, again, engage strongly. So that was also the point where they increased their aid. And second was 2015, that is the earthquake of Nepal. So these are the three major points where they had drastic increase in Chinese assistance to Nepal. Now I think, let me compare Chinese aid versus Indian aid. This is the data of 10 years ago, like 2010 to 11, Indian aid was 3 times higher than Chinese aid. Now, this is of last year, where you can see that Indian aid is half of Chinese aid in terms of commitment, but in terms of disbursement, it's almost 25 times higher. So the situation has changed within 10 years. Now, let me compare. This comparison is not of recent, is not as per the recent data. This is as per 2010 studies, because this is what I studied when I was in PhD between 2010 to 14. So when I compare Chinese aid with Indian aid, what I realized that Chinese aid are visible. They are very large. They are centrally located, unlike India. Like if in the Indian context, since you are from Delhi, if Chinese has to give anything, they will give you somewhere near to Connaught Place, which is very big, which everyone can spot. But if India has to give something, they will give you somewhere in Gurgaon, or even beyond Gurgaon, which you call Manesar or somewhere, where not everyone, or one corner of Noida. So that is the nature. That again, second, like if Indian has to have 1 million rupees, they will give for 10 small health posts, which is good for the country, because in remote part people don't have access to health. But if Chinese has to give, they'll give you at the center, like maybe at near AIMS, which everyone can see. So that is the difference between Chinese aid and Indian aid. That Chinese aid, they make sure that it's very large, it's visible and centrally located, so everyone can spot it. Second, in terms of objective, Chinese aid has certain objective. It either has to fulfill security interest or goodwill. It was the same with Indian aid before 90s. During 1970s, 1980s, India similar had similar objectives. But Indian aid at present, they lack planning, they lack strategy. Like when do Indian give aid? Republic Day of India. You come with the sweets to my house, and it doesn't matter whether I might have diabetic, but you come with the sweets. So it's like it lacks planning. Or a state visit, when the Indian Prime Minister comes to Nepal, he brings 100 kg of chandan to Pashupati. So they really lack planning. 100 ambulances on Independence Day, whether we really need it or not. So that is the difference in terms of objective. Indian aid is not that not strategically oriented. In terms of perception, perception means what you feel. It's not reality. It can be very different from reality. So I'm only talking about perception here. Many Nepalese believe that Chinese aid only benefit Nepalese, and China want to make Nepal self-reliant. It might not be true, but there is perception in Nepal. But if there is some Indian aid, there is a perception in Nepal that there is hidden interest, or India want to have market, India want to have labor from Nepal. Like when India was making Siddhartha Rajmarg highway to Pokhara, many people in Nepal, oh, because India wants cheaper labor, or Gorkha people from Pokhara to Indian army, so that's why they're making those roads. So there is always Nepalese always find some hidden interest. There might be, there might not be, but they always find some hidden interest in Indian aid. Last is delivery. When Chinese plan something, or when Chinese promise something, they deliver it on time. The Chinese aid are on time, but Indian aids are delayed by decades. There are few exceptions on Chinese aid as well. Like for example, Milamchi Milamchi water project is long delayed. It's still under construction. The ring road is completed, but it was long delayed. But overall, like Chinese aid are on time. Now, let me look at the India factor. I think it is very important to understand India factor when you talk about Nepal-China relations. India had objected to construction of Kodari Pass in 1963, and you can understand the reason, because the two countries had gone for war just before 1963, in 1962. So India had objected to that. Until 2015, till the earthquake, that was the only connectivity or only border point between the two countries. After 2015, Kerung Pass was opened. Second is that initially China had proposed Birganj-Patlaya Road. Birganj is very near to the Indian border. It's a gateway to Nepal. Similarly, Banwasa is near Uttarakhand, the entry point of Nepal to India. So it was China who proposed that road, and later India made it for free. India objected to it, and then India made that road. There is a very interesting story behind Banwasa-Kohalpur road. Actually, it was not made by free. But, Nepal wanted to construct the road at its own expenses, and the tender went to Chinese. And they had started the construction. Later, India objected to it. India said, we'll make it for free. And India had to pay fines to Chinese because they had already spent some money for canceling the project. So India paid the fine and made that road for free. So this shows a kind of competition between the two countries. Initially, it was the Chinese who talked about the railway, that we should have railway connectivity with Nepal. And then India responded that we'll have railway connectivity with Nepal at 6 different points. The points has been mentioned here. Again, India repeated that we'll have railway connectivity with Nepal. And then again, in 2018, Modi said that we'll have railway from Birganj or Rakshol in India to Kathmandu. So there's a reaction to Chinese proposals here. Similarly, many believe that BIMSTEC is a kind of a reaction to BRI. It's a counter to BRI. Now, what is Nepal's strategy for development? Where does Nepal stand? Nepal believes that Nepal has not developed itself in spite of the rise of China and rise of India economically. Both India and China are economic power. They have rapid development, but Nepal has failed. And the reason behind is that Nepal feels that there is an insulator between the two countries, between Nepal and China, as well as Nepal and India. Insulators are the poor states of India, like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Uttarakhand, West Bengal. Again, among those states, Nepal borders with one of the least developed parts of Bihar. Nepal borders with not only Bihar but leads most underdeveloped part of Bihar. Similarly, most underdeveloped part of Uttar Pradesh, or you can say West Bengal. So it's like an insulator. Similarly, Nepal borders with Tibet. It doesn't border with Shanghai or Guangzhou or Beijing. So because of that, Nepal is not able to get benefits, or you can say develop at the same rate, though we are between two big economic giants. So Nepal need connectivity. Second is that Nepal have realized two major sectors, hydro and tourism. Hydropower and tourism are two sectors where Nepal can develop. So India and China both have capital. They have huge capacity to invest. At the same time, both have technology. India can be a potential market. So Nepal really want India and China to work together in the hydropower sector, and we can get some economic benefits. Similarly, through tourism, Nepal is a beautiful place. You might have heard about it. In a very small territory, you have highest mountain in the world. You have low altitude. There is a variation of temperature within 100 kilometer. Huge variation, in fact, from snow to summer you can have within 100 kilometer. Similarly, out of the 10 highest mountain in the world, 8 are in Nepal. So because of that, there's huge potential for tourism. And Indians and Chinese, they're getting richer day by day, and there are a huge population. So if it is very easy for Nepal to tap those customers, or you can say tourists, so Nepal see lots of potential in these two sectors. But for that, again, we need connectivity. And for that particular region, Nepal signed BRI. But what does it mean to Nepal? It means connectivity. Let me give it, this is two pictures. The first on the left is an old railway that we used to have between Janakpur to Jayanagar. I have traveled from that. And it disappeared. And new have just, it's not even started. India has constructed the link. This railway was bought by Nepal, which will be in function in a few months. So we had to wait for decades for better connectivity. So whatever was there in the past has also disappeared when it comes to connectivity. Now, what does BRI mean to Nepal, and why Nepal is so ambitious about it? First is that this is a map of Nepal. The lower mark in blue are the places where India will be connecting Nepal through railway. So there will be railway from east to west. You can see Dhangadi here. So here to, from Sikkim side to Uttarakhand side, India will be constructing railway. The upper purple lines are places where Chinese are planning to have highway, or Nepal and China is planning to have highway. The red line is the Qinghai railway that is functional, but dotted blue line is under construction. So it will reach to Nepal border maybe in few years. Now, if that railway reaches to Nepal, and if there is proper connectivity within Nepal, what will it mean to Nepal? First, let me talk about BCIM. This was talked much when Manmohan Singh was the prime minister, not much in the present government. But during BCIM, China, Bangladesh, India, and Myanmar proposed this corridor from Kunming to Calcutta. You can locate Calcutta, though it is not mentioned here. So this corridor was proposed by these four countries. Now, at that time, Nepal realized that we can benefit from that BCIM, because if we make the complete circle, like BCIM only make the lower U, and if you make upper C, inverted C, what will happen? It will connect Kunming, Lhasa, and Kathmandu. So Nepal realized that Nepal should also be a part of BCIM, where it can connect the four countries through this connectivity. Though this process, it is complicated because this corridor passes through most sensitive part of India and other countries. There are questions about this, but still other countries are working on it. And why Nepal proposes that, Nepal realized that it is very difficult for them to construct the BCIM corridor. And if Nepal become a part of it, maybe it will be faster for goods to come from Kunming to Lhasa, Kathmandu, and Calcutta, because from Kathmandu to Calcutta, there is proper network, because all our goods comes from Calcutta. So if Kunming want to send something to Calcutta, they have two options, either to send through four countries or through China, Nepal, two countries. So Nepal realized that since there is better connectivity on Chinese side, there is enough infrastructure, maybe, Nepal can be a transit point between two countries. Now, if BCIM would have worked, what would have been the emerging market of Nepal? Nepal could have connected itself with the global market, because right now Nepal is not able to connect even with China and India because they're insulators. You all know that in India there is a quadrilateral, like New Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, and Calcutta are connected by fast roads and trains. There is better connectivity. Similarly, India is working on through BIMSTEC and other Mekong India Economic Corridor. India is trying to connect itself with Southeast Asian countries like Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, and all. So this triangle is under construction. China is already connected with the world, East Asia and the world. So if BCI would have completed, or if the upper circle is completed, what will happen? Nepal will be able to connect itself with India, which is the biggest South Asian market, with Southeast Asia through this triangle, and with China through the upper links. So that is how Nepal will be able to place itself among the world's biggest market of the world. That is what Nepal realized. Now, still there are lots of confusion in Nepal because of the relationship between India and China, which you are aware of, and I'll not be talking today. But what is Nepal's dilemma is that Nepal has realized that China's adversaries are the best economic engagers. Those who really hate China, who have very conflicting relations, have the best economic relations. China, US, China, Japan, China, India, China, South Korea. They have the worst relations when it comes to political relations, but they have the best economic engagement. The number of German taxis in Shanghai is more than what is there in Berlin. So these are the kind of engagement that China had. This makes Nepal confused that how is it possible. Second is that in spite of conflict, trade has expanded between India and China. There is one news here of maybe of that time that after Doklam, the trade increased by almost 18.63%. Some said there are different data of that. So in spite of conflict, the trade between India and China have increased. So that is another dilemma that comes to us. Second is Nepal also have dilemma in dealing with China's BRI and America's MCC or Indo-Pacific. Second is that when India talks with China, because this is a new world where there is not state-to-state relation, people are involved. So what happens when there is dialogue, when India raises concern with China, obviously Nepal is aware of that. So most of the dealings that happens today is that, when Indians talk to China, they talk about trade deficit. Now, this small neighbor also asks the same question, that does India consider trade deficit when it talks to small neighbors? Because that is what India is doing with China. India is asking China to decrease trade deficit. Now, a small neighbor asking similar questions. So this is what is being raised here. Now, what I think, there are few more questions, but I'm running out of time, so I've just kept it to here. Now, what I think is that India needs policy reset. I can give one more example. Like yesterday, since 1 or 2 days, there are lots of news about the Canadian Prime Minister talking about farmer protest. And India says, oh, Canada has no right to say that. Now, these things are debated or talked, they get highlighted in Nepalese newspaper that if India do not like Canadian interference, how can it question on the constitutional issues of Nepal? How can India give advice or comment on the constitution? So this is what the neighbor around India is also questioning on similar lines. That is how they're learning, because in the past, because people here plays role here. It's not only state government and all. Common people are part of foreign policy making at the moment. So this is how small countries are in dilemma, how they should deal with China at the time where India and China relations is conflicting. What I feel, because I want to end with what India can do. I think first India needs policy reset. India has to work on its goodwill, people-to-people contact, but it has to put it in a strategic gains. It has to put it in perspective that it can get a strategic gains. Just bringing 100 kg of chandan to Pashupatinath is not enough. It has to convert it into that strong people-to-people bond. Second is that what I've realized is that the Modi government has taken a few important good steps. Like there is less interference in the internal affairs of Nepal, which people in Nepal are really welcoming it. At the same time, India is working to fulfill the past promises. They have stopped making new promises, rather fulfill what they have already promised, because there is no point keep on promising and not delivering anything. What I feel is that rise of China in South Asia is of two reasons. One, obvious, that when you emerge as a power, you create a space. America is as good. Nepal and India have special relations, but America is always also important for us. They are not our neighbor because of its power. Maybe at times India and America has better relations than India and Japan, which is near India, and China, which is next door. So because of power, China has created space in South Asia. That is one obvious. Second is because of India's failed policies. When India failed, China automatically created a space. I'll give you one example, which is the blockade that happened between Nepal. It was unofficial. So that created a space for China. China didn't have to work hard to create that. China realized that, they have so much immense potential to challenge India and Nepal, which they have not realized. It's simply to drag them in Nepal. So that was because of flawed policy of China. And it's same with other countries. There are lots of examples which we can talk about. So what India can do now in this situation, which is very complex, I think India should have a comprehensive South Asia policy. And India has to be very serious at the moment. It's not only India, the other players as well, like Japan, US, Australia, everyone has to have a comprehensive South Asia policy. And how can they do that? Through Quad countries. India should have comprehensive South Asia policy with the like-minded countries, like for example, with Quad, Japan, US, and Australia can have joint development plans to challenge Chinese projects around the region, or other like-minded countries like South Korea, European Union. They should come together, and then only they can challenge China. If they don't, neither of them, neither India nor any other country, I think, are capable to do that, because the situation is very alarming around the region. Now, as we Nepalese, will it benefit Nepal? I think yes. Even India come with a comprehensive South Asian plan and all, will bring lots of competition in Nepal. It will also tame China. It will control China. At the same time, there will be competition among China and the other powers, and that will not only benefit Nepal or the neighboring country of India, but the whole region. Because China as a responsible power, I mean, no country should be ashamed to deal with that. So I think we should be welcoming this concept, because what we have realized, many of the countries, what they feel is that when there was no BRI, when there was no China, India was sleeping with in peace. It's China who has woken up India and in the region. So that is what most of the countries feel, that if there is no China, there is no American coming to Nepal, there is no Japanese defense minister coming to Nepal. But when there is China, they are coming up. So China has increased the strategic advantage of India's neighborhood. And India has to be prepared for that. At the same time, that's why I think it can bring healthy competition. And for that, it has to tame. Otherwise, like if they back out, then again, there will be a different situation altogether, which can be a big strategic loss for India. So I think they need a balance. Similarly, what Nepal should do in that situation, I think Nepal should address India's concern or neighbors' concern, which is security, which is very prime. If it is not addressed, then there can be catastrophe. India, Nepal, and other countries should be very careful with critical infrastructures. Critical infrastructures are infrastructures, but which has huge impact on security. So Nepal or any other neighbors of India or other countries should be very sensitive towards those infrastructure. Even Nepal should be sensitive to those Indian projects which can be of concern to China. It's not only one side that China has to be concerned, or Nepal has. All three countries should be sensitive to those infrastructure that can alter the balance of power. I think I'll end it here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for providing us an insight to your side of the story. I would like to now request Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, sir, to say a few words. And definitely, he needs no introduction. You must know him because he's in today's time there on one TV debate to another. Anyway, it's always a pleasure to introduce him, and I'll take this opportunity once again. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash has served as High Commissioner to Ottawa, Ambassador to Seoul, official spokesperson of Foreign Office, and Consul General to Shanghai. He has also done postings in Moscow, New York, Tokyo, Islamabad, etc. Since retirement in November 2016, he has turned into a foreign affairs analyst and commentator with special focus on Indo-Pacific region. Sir, the floor is all yours.
Well, thank you very much, Pakhi. First of all, Dr. Pramod Jaiswal, I would like to compliment you for an excellent presentation, frank, balanced. I have enjoyed it. Once you should be banned from speaking at any forum for the simple reason that you have, at your age, you have learned everything. And the things that you have to say are amazing. And somehow I think that either I got hold of your presentation or you got hold of my remarks, because you have already stolen half of my remarks, but well, I forgive you for doing that. Mr. Shashank Shukla, my dear student speakers, young friends, ladies and gentlemen. At the onset, I would like to congratulate Team Conflux Rivista. Yes, you are right. TCR is easier to pronounce, but it's a great name. Paki and Isha, compliments. This is a wonderful initiative to do a virtual lit festival, and I'm delighted to be invited to speak to such a wonderful group of youngsters. Okay, before that, I have been given 15 minutes and I promise I'll end at 13. Well, let me tell you a small story. A few months ago, I happened to meet at a webinar an author, a poet, an anchor, a critic, an artist, a storyteller, and a journalist. No big deal, right? But then I kept meeting this person almost everywhere and soon found that this person did not have one lazy bone in the system. And this person is in a hurry to change the world and believes that the time is running out. And this person is one third my age or even less. And because the time is running out and this person is in a hurry, this person sleeps barely 4 hours, but this person's energy is infectious. And it is that infection which has brought me here today. Don't ask me who this person is because this person cannot be named. Well, if you still have questions, let me know and I will gently disclose to you who this infection is. I would recommend that some of you are already infected, but stay away from this infection. Now, subject at hand, let me turn to the wisdom uh, which I gained from a certain country, where it is said that if you're thinking for just 1 year, plant wheat or rice. When your horizon is 20 years, invest in forests or trees. And if you are looking at a century or a millennium, invest in youth. And what youth? One of the world leaders who was setting his nation on the path of economic development, and at that time this nation was still a developing country, called up, gave a slogan to say that every village should be connected with a road. Why? To take a girl child to school. Why a girl child? Because if you educate a girl child, you educate the family, the village, the town, the nation. Uh, you make everybody health conscious. You make everybody know the civic responsibilities. But interestingly, the other way is not true. If you educate a boy, he may or may not be as effective in educating the other half of the humanity. So it is very, very important to make sure that if you want an enlightened generation, you start with educating the girl child. I was posted in this particular country at that time and had a very important visitor. His name is Narendra Modi. He was then the Chief Minister of Gujarat. And I told him shared this anecdote with him, and he went quiet. And after 2 minutes, he said, thinking of reflecting on it for 2 minutes, he said he did not know this particular anecdote, but in Gujarat, he has started doing the same. I'm taking you back many years when he was the chief minister of Gujarat, and he mentioned that at the beginning of the school year, everybody, all officials, from the block development officer to the chief minister, they fan out to villages, go door to door, persuading the family members to allow their girl child to be educated to go to school. And they deposit a certain amount in the bank. And if the child does primary classes, primary school, 5 times that amount is given, and there's not 1 rupee which is drawn from the national exchequer because there's such a competition that volunteers are coming up. So that is empowerment as I can see it. But before I talk about the importance of youth engagement for global action, there are a couple of things I would like to touch upon. And here I echo what Vansh said, dare to dream, dare to dream. It is very important. You will be in your teens and 20s only once in your life. Pursue your dreams and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. But one thing I love sharing anecdotes, and let me share another anecdote. There was a young lady who thought that she was interested in economics and she was a 4.0 student, doing very well. Went to study in the US, her grades plummeted from 4.0 to 2.9, and the father was after her with a stick and a virtual stick, that is, don't get me wrong, and threatened that he'll pull her back, that she must be kind of wasting her time, etc., etc. She said, no, I'm not interested in economics. And there was a furore. She said, I'm interested in biology and chemistry. And, the father won't accept it. But fortunately, uh, she switched to bio and chemistry. And today she's a hotshot doctor, and this father happens to be speaking to you. So this is from first-hand knowledge that I have, and since then I've seen lots and lots of kids whose priorities evolve, who you believe that you are interested in something, but you are not. It is not because you cannot make up your mind. It is a life journey. You believe that you are interested in something. When you experience it, you find it to be different. Please remember that only stones remain dormant. Do not be apologetic. It is natural to change your mind. Be competitive and give it your best shot, but do not strive for perfection. Perfection is the enemy of the good, as I see it. Strive for excellence, and the rest will follow. The other bit that I wanted to share was that recently at a dinner a couple of years ago, I had next to me a youngster sitting. He would be barely 26, and I said, "What are you doing?" So he said, I've retired." The penny did not drop, but after a few seconds, I thought that he said he has retired. I said, "Did you say you have retired and you're 26?" He said, "Yes, I have retired because I'm feeling burnt out. Since 20, I was working in a hedge fund, and it's about time I cannot handle it anymore." I have served in Korea and Japan and see the stress levels of kids, not just kids, but everybody, and particularly the kids. And a lot of blame goes to the parents there. I'm a parent, so I'm saying that with a sense of responsibility, because every parent wants you to be the Prime Minister of India. And there can be only one Prime Minister of India. So, this relentless pressure is something that is complicating lives. But given the high stress levels, the mental health issues which are grossly underreported afflicts at least 1/3 of the youth. And Indians are unfortunately one of the least active nationalities. with the poorest of fitness levels and was second most sleep deprived. So please make sure that, as one said, that you're a long distance runner. And last bit that I want to say is, please start taking vitamin P. And if you know what vitamin P is, it's fine. If not, let me tell you, vitamin P is punctuality. In today's competitive world, your success or otherwise will hinge on whether you are you're conscious of time management. And that is something that we Indians need to learn very big time. Now, why is it important to engage youth for global action? Simple thing is that the world is shrinking very quickly and it is becoming a village, literally, because of connectivity, virtual and physical. And in this digital era in particular, what happens in one part of the world is you get to know within minutes. The world has come into our living rooms and drawing rooms, and the impact again of what happens in one part of the world radiates to others beyond the geographical boundaries. Take any major challenge, the corona pandemic, terrorism, cyber intrusions and threats, climate change, women empowerment, universal literacy, respect for multiculturalism, poverty eradication. This list is only indicative. But global challenges require global responses and a long term commitment. The first step is awareness, awareness, awareness. And the earlier the awareness happens, the better. And how the best is that it is the youth that gets onto this information wave, information highway, is apprised of and gets involved in these issues because the youth is more receptive, more attuned to coming up with ideas. Also, along with the challenges, there are global opportunities and best practices which need to be identified, propagated, and replicated because a new generation is emerging, the generation of global citizens, and the youth is at the forefront of this generation of global citizens. My generation is that of baby boomers. I am afraid we have done a poor job. We had poor exposure and a limited vision. Now the ball is in the court of Generation X, and Generation Y is slowly sliding into the decision making. Some of you are Generation Y, and the others of you are millennials. But the work is cut out for you. I think you are up to the challenge, seeing what you are capable of. And one thing that I would urge all of you to do is to inculcate green consciousness and also help India bring green consciousness at home. I'll close with sharing with a small anecdote. It was, I think, in 2011 when I went to Bhutan. I've handled Bhutan and Nepal affairs for a long time. But this was in 2011 as the official spokesperson. I went to, along with the Prime Minister, I went to Bhutan. And they had thousands of school kids along the road from Phunshiling from Paro to Thimphu. And as we were driving, I stopped the car because I saw something very unusual. The motorcade passed away. I went ahead, I stopped and went and saw and met the children. There were lots of children, but not a speck of litter. Bhutan, not a speck of litter on the roads. So I got talking to these kids. Some were 5, some were 7, some were 10. Each had a bag with some eats, another bag which was a garbage bag. And I said, asked them, what are they doing? They explained this was a garbage bag. I got speaking to the teacher who told me that from age 1, they are taught in schools, do not litter. And the impact is visible. I hope what we could not do, your generation can do to leave the world in a better shape for the generation to follow. God bless you. God bless Pakhi. God bless Isha. All I can say is may your tribe increase. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for throwing light on the involvement of youth in global action. It was really great having you speak on our platform. First of all, thank you, sir, Your Excellency. It was an extremely inspiring speech you gave us. And now I would like to call upon Mr. Shashank Shekhar Shukla. He wears many hats, from an ex soldier to a social entrepreneur to a politician and to an author. A Harvard graduate and a PhD, economics from IIM Lucknow. He is the co founder of Ivy Dreams, a startup aimed at helping young scholars fulfill their aspirations. He is also the co founder of Gurukul Group of Institutions, a social venture which includes a low cost graduate college in rural UP, a charitable school for destitute children, and a teachers training college. The aim is to use quality education as a tool for social transformation. And today we are having him here, and he'll be sharing his thoughts on youth and the way forward. Mr. Shukla, please take over.
Isha, for a generous introduction, especially considering the August company that I'm part of. Thank you so much to the entire TCR team for this opportunity. And also a special thanks for listening to luminaries like Ambassador Vishnu Prakash sir, and even Professor Jaiswal and the dear friend Vansh. So with that, a vote of thanks from my side, I would like to launch into the topic that I am going to talk about today, which is getting involved. And I'm going to steal bits and pieces. That is the advantage of going last, actually. And once I don't envy you in going in first. So I'm going to build upon, with my limited capabilities, upon what Vansh has said, what Ambassador Vishnu Prakash sir has said. The topic that I'm going to try and motivate our youth who are part of this session today is to actually get involved in shaping yourself, the society around you, and ultimately the nation that you want to see. Now, firstly, let's talk about shaping yourself. Now, I would harken back to my days in the National Defense Academy when I was training to be an Indian Air Force fighter pilot. I came from a normal middle class background in Lucknow, and I didn't even know how to wake up early. Right now, in the first term, I remember the seniors, right, expected you to wake up at 3 o'clock, and at 4 o'clock you had to kind of be vanished from the washroom after washing your clothes, after shaving and doing all of that, because at 4 the seniors came and the bugle rang at 5 o'clock in the morning. The muster was at 5 in the morning. So that is where my journey of shaping myself started, right? Where earlier the things that I felt were impossible for me, like waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning, right? Or sleeping for just 4 hours in a day. I'm not advocating that youngsters should sleep for 4 hours in a day. I'm talking about what is possible, right? So this journey of pushing yourself and realizing what is it that you can achieve, right? If you have a desire. And ever since I remember I was a child, and I always saw myself, right, as a fighter pilot, and one day maybe going out to defend my country. And that desire, that passion for what you want really pushed me to, as I said, wake up at 3 in the morning. I never knew how to press my own shots, right? And I learned in 2 days just a few rolls, right? And I knew how to kind of make a razor edged shots, right? So and how to see your face in your own boots, right? I had never polished my boots, meaning till class 12th my mother used to do it, right? I'm openly accepting on this platform. But there I learned within a week, and they used to shine like crazy. We could see our face in that. So the first thing that I would say to the audience here, falling back on the same anecdotal perspective that Ambassador Vishnu Prakash said, from my anecdote, that please discover your passion, right? If you know where you want to go, right, then pushing yourself will become that much easier. You will not mind getting up at 3 o'clock. You will not mind polishing your shoes, which you've never done. You will not mind finishing your breakfast in 3 minutes, because success comes at a price, right? And the price is having a clear vision and willingness to work for it. Now, as you see that right now I'm sitting in a kurta pajama wearing a koti. So of course I'm not in the Indian Air Force, right? As luck would have it, in the Air Force Academy, I met with an accident, and I had to be discharged from duty with full military honors, right? That shattered me. And as Vansh was talking about, that things will not be linear, I would also say that life will throw surprises at you, right? Life will always throw a spanner in the works, right? The key is that you get up, right, and hit back. And again, I'm talking as a soldier, okay? Many a times, right, what has happened that you are walking and life would give you a sucker punch in the face, right? And you'll fall back and it's fine, right? Please do find it within yourself to get up, right, and give two back in the face of life. Okay, so that is an ex-soldier telling you, please, life will give you sucker punches. Get up, right? Because when I hear so much mental health issues, people giving up, right, quite easily, trust me, people have faced a lot of challenges and overcome them, right? And I have had my share of challenges, right? Please make sure that you don't give up, right? Get up and fight again. And ultimately, if you keep getting up and keep moving forward towards that vision that you have for yourself, trust me, one day you will get there. Then I would again here use a small saying which I have borrowed from from the movie Rocky and Rocky Balboa says it, and one from Milkha Singh, right? And many youngsters would probably enjoy these sayings. Milkha Singh ji, right? Everybody knows Milkha Singh, right? The celebrated athlete who took for the first time India to the world stage in athletics. He says, hard work, willpower, and dedication. For a person with these qualities, the sky is the limit. And then Rocky Balboa further supplements it. And this is something that I really identify with. And this is where I was talking about just a moment earlier. I'm not the smartest, richest, or the most talented person. I succeed because I keep going and going and going. So that was the point that I was trying to drive, that you will fall. Please make sure that you get up and you soldier on. Now, moving on from that, uh, as Vansh said about taking risks. Now, as you've said, uh, that I wear many hats. I wear many hats because as a consequence of moving on and on and on, no, right? Life has given me many hats and I have accepted them, those responsibilities with aplomb. When life denied me being the life of a soldier, right? I had the opportunity to become an entrepreneur, a social entrepreneur, and opened schools and colleges for the poor in hinterlands of UP. right? And my networks contributed, and I still don't know from where all the resources came from, but friends and family got together, and now we do educate about 2,000 children, most of them at zero or near zero cost, and it works. And if you ask me where it all happened, I really do not know the answer, because most of the people here would know that establishing something in a brick and mortar model, establishing schools and colleges, requires immense capital. And that, for a person coming from middle class background, simply that does not work. But again, as I said, if you get up, you have a vision, and you're willing to struggle, then the stars and the moons and the universe will contribute to help you get towards your vision. Now, the typical thing about this is that you should be willing to take crazy risks, right? Please, for the youth that is there today, right? Please take crazy risks. You are in that age, right? And I am kind of just at the borderline when I pass out from youth, right? So yeah, meaning, sorry, I'm just disclosing my age here, okay? But the thing being that at your age, make sure that you take risks. What is it that can happen? At worst, you can fail, but even from failure, you will learn, which will help you do better in the next crazy risk that you take, right? So one of the key messages that I want to kind of leave with you here is that you should never be afraid to take risks. Now, when I talk about all of this, one key element, right? Everybody talks about taking risks. Everybody talks about your passion. Many people talk about when you fail, you get up and all that. There are two things that are extremely important, right? Which is very old school, but very relevant. Thousands, as Ambassador Vishnu Prakash said, right, that there are thousands of people who dream about becoming Prime Minister of India, right? But before Modi ji became the Chief Minister and before he became the Prime Minister, if you read his autobiography, he did one thing, right? He worked very, very hard, right? The old work very hard, be very disciplined till this day and age. Although I come from a political dispensation which is opposing to the ruling dispensation, but still I respect the hard work and the discipline, because you can have all the dreams in the world, you can have all the passion, you can take all the risks, but you will fail again and again if you are not willing to supplement that with sheer hard work, the number of hours, and that too in a disciplined manner, right? Even an ox works hard, right? You need to work hard, but in a very disciplined fashion. So that is the key. All these things combined, in my mind, right, are the keys to success. Then uh, one more thing that I would like to add to that, and this is again building upon what one said at the beginning, that everybody is looking for a job, right? Everybody is looking to have internships. I compliment, right? Like Paki and Isha. I've known Isha for a small time. Even Vansh, right, is extremely young, and he has positioned himself in a place where recently I was part of his team actually, where they led dialogues, right, for the entire country, UN 75 dialogues, and thousands and thousands of youngsters participated in it. I love to participate in it. So the moral of the story, right? And Isha was leading the team in UP, right? I was part of her team also. So what I want to get across, that if you are young, does not mean that you cannot be a creator of opportunities. Please do not always look to be consumer of opportunities, right? Please create internships, right? Please be a wealth creator. Please be a job creator and not always be a seeker. Because if India has to realize its destiny, then it needs more Vanshas, it needs more Ishas, it needs more Pakis, right? And and yes, definitely we need people to coalesce around them, but we need a whole lot people who will create opportunities and not just look to consume opportunities. The last thing, as I kind of wind up, because I've got 10 minutes and I want to stick to my time, is that there are couple of things, right, which will be very important as we move forward, like the skills of the 21st century. Now, this is very practical advice that I've seen, that sustainability, and Ambassador Vishnu Prakash was alluding to that. Sustainability and conservation is the need of the hour, right? So whatever you do, right, and as someone was mentioning, this might not be taught to you, right, in the classroom, but having a sustainable perspective about everything that you do will help you be a global citizen, because, borrowing Ambassador's words, the world is becoming a global village, right? So if you have to be a global citizen, you have to be mindful that we leave a better world than what we inherited. So, sustainability, having a global mindset are two of the things, right? And being a creator instead of a consumer of opportunities are broad 21st century skills that every youngster should look to develop. So, on that note, I would kind of quickly recap the key things and then end it there. Firstly, discover your passion. Secondly, don't be afraid to fail. Fail, get up, fall, again, get up, fall again, and then march on. Okay. Then, please, just dreams, right? Just failing and getting up will not get you there. Please be prepared to put in the hours in a disciplined fashion. Then take crazy risks. And lastly, be a creator of opportunities and not a consumer of opportunities. On that note, I would like to thank again the distinguished panel that is there for making me a part of it, and the organizing team of TCR for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you so much.